Now, I should remind you that Richard Dawkins is one of the world's premier proponents of atheism. This guy has a chair at Oxford University. Have a listen.
Of course, common sense doesn't allow you to get something from nothing. Something pretty mysterious had to give rise to the origin of the universe.
And can I just interrupt? It's an old question, a very old question. Thomas Aquinas in the 13th century was asking this same question. He said there must have been a time when no physical things existed, but something can't come from nothing. That was his view. It's just repeated by us.
Something can come from nothing, and that's what physicists are now telling us.
Physicists like Lawrence Krauss.
And made it plausible, the most remarkable and unexpected thing you can imagine, that you could start with absolutely nothing. That means, unlike the cardinal said, and unlike some people argue, no particles, but not even empty space. No space whatsoever. And maybe even no laws governing that space. And we can plausibly understand how you could arrive without any miracles, without any need for a creator, without any supernatural creation, you could produce everything we see. And I find that the fact that it's plausible, remarkable.
And these are the guys that scoff at the idea of someone taking water and changing it into wine. That is, taking something that exists and turning it into something else that exists. And yet, they think it's more plausible that you could take absolutely nothing, no particles, no space, no nothing, and have it magically turn into our immense universe without any causing agent. And they think that is more plausible? Go figure.
It's a matter,
you can quickly respond to that.
You can dispute exactly what's meant by nothing, but whatever it is, it's very, very simple. And why is that funny? It's a matter,
you can quickly respond to that.
You can dispute exactly what's meant by nothing, but whatever it is, it's very, very simple. And why is that funny?
I think it's a bit funny to be trying to define nothing.
Richard Dawkins has a habit of making outrageous statements. Here's one of them.
Life is now completely solved, barring the details. That was Darwin's contribution. And
to say that the questions on the origin of life have been solved by Darwin is a joke. In 2005, at the famous Kitzmiller trial, one of the leading proponents of evolution in the world today, Kenneth Miller, testified. And in his testimony, he admitted that since Darwin, over 150 years ago, presented his theory, science still cannot even tell us how the living cell evolved. So for Dawkins to claim that Darwin solved anything is just one of the many unsubstantiated claims that Dawkins promotes on a regular basis. If you listened to the audience, you heard them chuckle when he said, barring the details. Well, explaining the details of the step-by-step process of natural selection acting upon favorable mutations is the major stumbling block for the proponents of evolution, because they do not know how the alleged transitions took place. You can search high and low throughout the peer-reviewed science journals, and you will not find a single step-by-step description of the development of any organ of any air-breathing animal in the world. All you will get is an unsubstantiated hypothesis of what they think might have happened, what Harvard University's Professor Richard Lewontin called an unsubstantiated just-so story. And that is what the theory of evolution is all about. It's all about propagating the myth that says we know a lot about how life evolved, when in fact we haven't been able to figure out how the simplest living cell evolved. The devil is in the details, and it is the details that the Darwinists avoid like the plague.
Now, as for getting your morals from the Bible, I very sincerely hope nobody does get their morals from the Bible.
Oh my! Why would anyone want to get their morals from the Bible? A book that tells us we should love our neighbors, love our wives and husbands, be respectful to our parents, a book that teaches us we shouldn't lie, steal, bear false witness, a book that tells us we should feed the hungry, give to charity, heal the sick. Man, what a terrible set of ideas to follow. Apparently, Richard Dawkins prefers that we have his view of morality, like this.
My passion is for scientific truth. I don't much care about what's good and evil, actually.
Could you imagine what the world would be like if we all shared that attitude?
What scientists are trying to do is to explain how you can get not just something, but the immense complexity of the world, of the universe, and
the immense complexity of the universe? But Richard, in another video you told us this.
A God is a complicated entity which requires a much more sophisticated and difficult explanation than a universe, which is, according to modern physics, a very simple entity.
Well, which one is it, Richard? Is it simple or is it immensely complex? Make up your mind. And this is one of the most prominent atheists in the world today. Concluding with Dawkins, I'd like to share a true story that was shared by Ravi Zacharias concerning Richard Dawkins.
I want to tell you something fascinating that happened, and this is a true story. It happened a few months ago. He was on a radio program on the BBC, live. And he was dialoguing with one of the ministers of St. Paul's Cathedral. And he was, as usual, Dawkins just very belligerent and hostile and verbose and all that he does to criticize believers. And he said, you know, Christians are basically very unintelligent people. He said, if you want to ask an average Christian even to name the Gospels, they won't know it. They don't know it. And so the vicar just kept listening and he said, Richard, you're a very erudite scientist. And Richard's just nodding, you know. He said, your favorite book is The Origin of Species, right, by Darwin? He said, right. He said, Richard, can you name the full title of the book? This happened live. And Dawkins said, oh, yeah, I know, it's a much longer title than The Origin of Species. So the vicar said, go ahead. Name it for me.
On the origin of species, on the origin of species, there is a subtitle.
The ultimate proof of the sovereignty and omnipotence of God is that it even takes an atheist who doesn't believe in him to call upon him to remind him of the title of the book that helped him deny him.